Hello, crypto boys and ghouls, and welcome back to the channel, Tales from the Cryptmancer, where we feature content on play-to-earn games on the blockchain, such as Splinterlands. And in today's video, I wanted to follow up around our video that we did recently talking about a bot service that we tested and got good results from for the first initial test, and kind of follow up with some of what the data is showing us. Now, it looks like the video that we published earlier got a lot of attention in the community because I think there's a lot of interest for that bot service, Archmage.app, that got funneled into their Discord server. And I think there's a lot of activity also on Hive Engine on the secondary market for their tokens. So it seems like the community is definitely interested in this subject, and I'm sure that development team will come out with more data for those interested moving forward. But what I wanted to talk about today was interesting data that I was made aware of, and I think I can talk about this publicly because the data was actually shared by one of the Archmage developers within the Splinterlands Exchange Discord group. And it's information that I think is pretty interesting from a conversation perspective. And if we go here and we look at the Champion League leaderboard currently right now, so as many of you are aware, Champion League is the highest league in the game where the best of the best Splinterlands players play. And if we look at the leaderboard sitting at rank 1 here, we have Infinity X22, part of the Immortal Gods Guild. And he is rank 1 on the leaderboard at a rating of 4810, which I believe might be the highest that he's achieved. And my understanding is that this is a direct result of letting the Archmage bot play his account. And that is, wow, that's very impressive, obviously, that a bot service is able to take an account and run it up all the way to the top of the game, to the #1 spot actually in the game, and do that, well, just kind of just after we kind of talked about the service, which is kind of interesting. But if you look here, the reward for the top place in champion is 200,000 DEC. And if we just do a broad estimate here of value, let's say 200,000 DEC at, let's say, roughly 0.0007. I don't know what it is today. I haven't had time to look. But that's basically $140 base of rewards that if Infinity holds that place through the end of the season over the next 1 day and 11 hours, they're going to get $140 in reward from a DEC perspective. What's interesting, if we look at Hive Engine and we look at the Archmage B tokens or the beta tokens for the bot service, you can see that the last price that one sold was for $155. These were actually selling previously during the closed beta for $10 for anyone that was interested. So definitely going from $10 to, well, I guess you can see here a lot of Hive, 250 Hive, 224 Hive, etc. This token is definitely in demand. And I think from what I understand is there's going to be some released information about the Archmage Alpha and the Beta tokens in the future general release of the bot. But that's really not what I want to talk about today. It's really more about, the availability of the bot, its impact on the leaderboard, and how good is the bot. So again, if we look at this ranking here, we've previously talked about bots in a different context as being kind of an interesting part of the game. And I put interesting in air quotes there because we've talked about how large bot farms can farm large amounts of rewards and obviously farm those and sell those on the market for the bot owners. And I think there's been some interesting information posted in Mav chat recently from Commander Chaos on some of the numbers of some of the largest bot farms, which is maybe a subject for a different video. But we really haven't talked about, the singular focus bots that can take an account to rank 1 in the game, essentially. And those, I would say, are very sophisticated bots like Archmage. And before we talk a little bit more about, what's happening here, if we look at peak monsters and we look at Infinity's account here, you can see that the account that is currently holding first place in the leaderboard and that used the Archmage bot service to get there in part has right now almost 5,000 DEC in rental cards being funneled into the account. And the collection power of those rentals is roughly 1 million CP. So that's the rentals on the account. And then if we switch to, or I should say, yes, that's what the filter here is: rented and delegated and not owned. So then if we switch to not rented, but delegated and not owned, we can see here there's 1.8 million CP, with a total value of the cards in this category being $95,000, almost $96,000 worth of cards. And then if we filter even further and just say, let's look at the owned cards on the account, and we can see the owned cards on the account is roughly $2,300 and 171,000 CP. So it's a combination of owned cards, delegated cards, and rented cards. But no matter how you slice and dice it, there's a lot of assets being put behind this rank 1 leaderboard ranking, which, if you look at the goal of, Matt and Agod and the team, has always been to say, hey, at least when it comes to rewards in the game, like this 200,000 DEC reward for first place, is that, hey, to get here, you need to have some skin in the game. You need to have invested somehow in either renting cards or owning cards, or, having someone in a guild delegate you cards, or having a holding account delegate you cards, etc., to be able to earn these type of rewards. And this is the case here. But the only difference here is, instead of a player, in Infinity X22 saying, hey, I'm playing all my battles manually, I think they've kind of come out and I think publicly stated in some form or fashion in this case that, hey, the Archmage bot is great and it's helped me get to this spot. And that's quite a testament, I would say, to the bot capabilities. But it brings up some interesting, questions, I guess, not necessarily questions, but just topics for discussion, right? And again, what's different about the Archmage bot is it's not focused on bot farms with 1BCX cards and, tens of thousands of accounts. It's quite the opposite. It's a bot service that is sophisticated, and it's taking, accounts that have either rented or owned assets in the game and helping them essentially, get rewards in the game. And, by all, I would say, interpretations of the developers of Splinterlands, that seems to be fair game. And what's interesting about this particular bot and this particular bot service is, when you think about it, it's kind of interesting because, if this was generally available to all users, who wouldn't want to use it? Because it's obviously very good at what it does. Now, here's a couple of thoughts, and I'm just obviously talking off the cuff here. I haven't researched or necessarily prepared any statements or any thoughts around this. I'm just kind of going with the data as I'm seeing it and as I'm getting it through Discord and through general information in the game. And I guess what I would say is, we've seen similar things happen in the rental market with the Rent Golem, in that the Rent Golem is a bot that what it does exceptionally well, right? It rents cards out for basically maximum profits, and it benefits the holders of those assets. And they charge a fee to do so of that. But generally speaking, I think most people are happy paying that fee because they make more money or more profit or more margin with those assets using the bot than if they were to do it and manually do it by themselves through peak monsters or through other methods. And that seems to be fine. It seems to be commonly accepted to say, hey, if you have assets and you want to rent them, use a rent column. And no one's really complaining about that because, well, for those that are participating, it's working well. People are able to rent cards. People are paying the DEC for those cards, and seems to be a happy ecosystem. Everyone seems to be happy about it. And maybe it's because the rental market is big enough for, let's say, 25% of all the rental cards in the game or rental CP in the game. I'm not sure exactly what the figure is right now, but it's a good chunk of the rental market is going through the rent golem and the automated bot service there. And the rental market is still moving along just fine, and no one's complaining on either end of the spectrum. Now, what's different here, I think, with Archmage in the bot service here is right now it's in a closed beta, so it's not generally available for anyone just to use right now. And I think they're working on getting it, scaling up their servers and other things to get to a better spot to open it up to more users. But that being said, in the current state, there's not a ton of users using the bot. I think, and I have to double check the numbers, but between alpha and beta tokens for Archmage, there's several hundred. I want to say it was like around 400 beta tokens, and I'm not sure how many alpha, but I'm guessing it's less than a total of under 1,000 total bots that are running Archmage today. And I can, definitely try and look that up later after the fact and see if I can post that in the comments to see how many actually are between alpha and beta are available. But that being said, I don't believe it's more than 1,000 are in existence. Now, what we have here with the leaderboard, which is different than the rental market, is the leaderboard payout for champion, for example, looks like it goes down to, let's see what place. It goes to 50 spots for the champion leaderboard. And there's how many leagues? There's champion, there's diamond, gold, silver, and bronze. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 leagues, 50 spots on each league. So that's 250 total leaderboard spots that are paid out in a season. Well, that's a much smaller market for prizes right now, 250 versus the whole rental market, which the rent golem works in today, which is millions of CP and millions of cards. So that's a difference for sure, where the presence of a bot, and multiple bots, in the future, could make this interesting. But what's also interesting is with modern versus wild coming up, it'll go from 250 to, let's say, 500 total leaderboard spots that'll be paid out. But what is interesting when we look at this comparison, again, the manual comparison of renting cards out versus a bot calculating the optimal way to rent, the time to rent, the price to rent, etc. Well, the Archmage bot is basically doing the same thing, but with battles. What it is doing essentially, as far as I understand, is it is following and scrubbing the battle chain for the top players in the top leagues and the top teams, and looking at the win percentages of those teams based on the scenarios, etc., and coming up with the best team compositions to play. Now, that's not saying it's the best cards to play individually per scenario. It's just saying, hey, when I come across this mana level in this league and I have these cards available to me to play, this is the optimum highest win percentage that I have seen historically. And it does that all very fast, faster than any human could do it. And, humans are fallible, and our memory is not, or our processing ability is not as fast as a computer. So the bots have an advantage to play optimally constructed teams to give higher win percentages, right? So right now, it looks like the Archmage bot selection process is doing quite well versus humans because it's at the top of the leaderboard in this game. So, what does that mean? Well, it's an interesting question or topic because, Infinity X22 would not be at the #1 rating here if he did not have the assets and the cards in his account for the Archmage bot to play effectively. So, basically, if we kind of dumb that down and make it more of a, simple argument, it's basically saying in the future, basically, let's say the top 10 to 20 players in the game, right? Here in Champion League, like if you look at all their CP, like Infinity has 2.9 million collection power, Bubkey has 17 million, Nargata here has 1.4 million, Crypto Reaper has 14 million. I guess where I'm going with this is to say is if you feed a bot the top meta and the max level cards in a collection to be able to choose from, it's going to be interesting to see how the leaderboard works itself out if, for example, all of these top players with similar collections compete for the leaderboard and run bots in the future because, well, the bots are going to be putting the pretty much the same teams if they use the same bot algorithm against each other, assuming they have the same cards, all max decks. So it's going to be interesting to see, quote, the bot battles in the future potentially. But to play a little bit of devil's advocate also on this topic, my understanding, again, not verified because, well, I don't play at this level. I'm not in the top guilds. And, I don't have max cards or max decks by any stretch of the imagination. But the rumor that I've heard is that many of the top players, at least in Champion, maybe the top 20 or so players in a given period of time, use bots. But these might be private bots that maybe they have access to that they're not sharing with others or that they program themselves. So it makes it an interesting piece of the puzzle here because if that is true, which I can't verify, I've only heard rumors, but if it is true that there are private bots out there that top players are using to climb the leaderboard ranks, isn't it good for the general community, like the average Joe out there, to say, hey, you don't have to necessarily have a private bot or have, be a member of a certain guild or guilds to get access to this specialized or kind of, special bot program to run your account because, well, hey, Archmage is a public bot service that you can subscribe to by getting a token. And yeah, pretty much anyone who had $10 as of, couple days ago could have access to the bot and, been Infinity X22 if they had the right cards behind the account and be at the top of the champion leaderboard. So from that perspective, it's interesting because it levels the playing field. Again, assuming that those rumors are true, that there are private bots or specialized solutions out there that other top players have been using historically. Well, now that's not hidden in a Discord server on the dark web or anything, or in a specific guild or guilds. Now it's a service available to anyone to play. So if you have the cards rented or owned, you can use an Archmage token. Again, $10 a couple days ago, now $150 on the secondary market right now. But you have access to the same algorithms and same ability to play cards competitively at that bot level. So, that's probably a good thing in the grand scheme of things, right? For the average Joe player. Again, whether you're playing at Champion League or you're playing at Diamond or you're playing at Gold, etc., and you want to use a service, well, now you can because it's, well, once it goes into general availability, would be available to everyone. So again, it's very interesting, this conversation. I guess why I find it so interesting is, before we were talking about bots in mass in the thousands or tens of thousands, just farming rewards and extracting value and doing some kind of questionable or shady things with win trading and other things that might have been happening, and how we've gone to the exact opposite end of the spectrum, where we have specialized bots that are so good at what they do that they're claiming top leaderboard spots in the top league of the game. So let me know your thoughts, what you make of this, and what it means for the future of the game. Is this going to be a game that humans battle humans? Or is it a game where people acquire the cards and let the bots do the thinking? I don't know. I don't know the answer to the game. I mean, I enjoy the game. I like to play the game. I'm definitely not optimal. I definitely am fallible. And I will make mistakes. And I'm probably never going to be at the top of the leaderboard, at least not without a lot of practice. But, now if you want to use a bot to get there and you have the cards to power the bots, maybe that is the way the leaderboard goes in the future. So I guess the question I will leave the community with, and I'm sure this will generate a lot of conversation, this topic that we're covering today, but the question is, what is Splinterlands from a game perspective? Is it the leaderboard? Is it ranked battle rewards? Is it guild brawls? Is it the tournaments? What is Splinterlands the game to you? What is the game mode? Is it all those things? Is it one of those things? Is it none of those things? Because that could be, how you then perceive bots, whether it be a specialized bot like Archmage, which is a battle bot, or is it something like a farming bot? And how do you perceive those within the game, and what does it mean for the game's future? I'll leave it at that. I know I've been kind of meandering here, but again, this is just some interesting data that we're seeing, and I find it interesting. I don't have necessarily a stance or an opinion at this point. I'm just presenting the data as I'm getting it in real time to the community, and curious what you think. Leave your comments in the comments section below. And until next time, keep stacking those stats.
That's entertainment.